Welcome, everyone, to this session of Administrator Issues and Updates on May 20th, 2025. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Roberts, thank you. Commissioner West is out of the office today. There is still a quorum present. Welcome back, Commissioner Schrader. Roll call, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. Thank you. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners, convene as the North Clackamas Parks Rec District Board of Directors. Gary, would you please introduce the first item on the
Yes,
agenda?
you are meeting as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors. This is an update that I will give you. Execution of Recovery Campus property sale deed. So back in November, the board approved the sale of a property from the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District to Clackamas County to use as the recovery campus. Unfortunately, staff made an error and we did not actually sign the deed that you authorized in November or December, and the board authorized Chair Smith to sign it. She is no longer here. So we're just making a correction. We're doing a housekeeping item. Being fully transparent, it was an error, and ultimately I'm responsible for the error, and I apologize. So we're asking to bring this back to your agenda this week just to sign the deed. We've already paid for it. Everything's done. It's just to formally make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I apologize for the error, but seeking your permission to put this on consent for this week so the board can sign the deed to finalize the sale. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Gary. Colleagues, any questions?
Go forth, in my opinion.
All right, so there's no concerns. This will advance to our business meeting consent agenda on May 22nd for our final approval. I'll now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next item is exactly what I just shared, but now you're meeting as the Board of County Commissioners. It is to accept the deed from the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for the sale of the property from the district to Clackamas County for the recovery campus. Again, I just explained what happened. I'd like to put this on the agenda for this Thursday as well, that you will accept the deed from NCPRD. Is that okay?
Yeah, right. I see my colleagues appear to agree with that, so if there's no questions or comments or concerns, this will also advance to the business meeting consent agenda on May 22nd for a final approval. And on to the next item, Gary.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Next, 2025 point-in-time count correction. Staff sent you an email, but we wanted to publicly acknowledge what happened and how we're moving forward. To present is Mary Rumbaugh, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, and Tonya Holowetsky, Director of Public and Government Affairs. There is a memo in your packet. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Roberts and Commissioners. Welcome back, Commissioner Schrader. We missed you. So I am here today to provide clarification on data presented last Tuesday to this board on the point-in-time count and to explain how the error occurred. The data presented last week specific to the overall number of people experiencing homelessness and those sheltered and unsheltered remain the same. The error occurred when the data was broken down by population. As a result, the number of young adults and the number of older adults who were homeless on the date of the count was incorrectly stated last week, indicating that there were more young adults and fewer older adults who were homeless. And in fact, Chair Roberts noted that this seemed different than what he had been told when he visited one of the providers during the count. And in fact, Chair Roberts, you were right. As the table in your memo shows, during the point-in-time count this year, only 34 young adults indicated they were homeless, and 134 of older adults indicated they were homeless. We previously had noted 33 in the original report. The reason behind the increase remains unchanged. The economy is very much impacting our older adults and maintaining housing, many of them who do not have a pathway to grow or increase their income. The error was a human error. The data file that is required by HUD is only used during the point-in-time count every 2 years. It comes with complex instructions, and unfortunately, staff misinterpreted the instructions, resulting in the error. At the point of time that the error was found, within just a very short period of time, we elevated that up to county leadership, notified everyone of the error, and requested to come back to issues today to correct the information. So swift action was taken to make sure that everybody was aware. This error should not put into question the integrity of data from Health, Housing, and Human Services or Housing and Community Development. There was urgency in sharing the point-in-time count data once released by PSU. In hindsight, it would have been best to provide the higher-level data and to request more time to review and analyze the demographic data. That is no one's fault, but lessons learned from the situation. I would now like to turn it over to Tonya, who can share about the follow-up with media, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, Commissioners. So as Mary stated, on May 13th, we presented the pit count, and we followed that up with a press release that same day. We had 3 news outlets that reported on the pit count. It was Carpenter Media, Coin News, and KGW. After we learned of the error, we followed up with a corrected media release, and on the evening of the 14th, and we reached out directly to the media outlets who did report to make sure that they saw the corrected information, and most of them followed up with corrected the information on their site. So KPTV did not. So as I said, we had the Oregonian then also followed up with a article on Friday with the corrected data. So the only other media outlet that referenced the pit count was KPTV, and they did that when they reported on Clackamas Village grand opening. So that is what we did, and as Mary said, happy to answer any questions.
All right, Commissioner Schrader has a question.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, guys, because I actually spent time with Fahid yesterday where he went through this data. Hey, stuff happens. It's corrected. And, just good work. And thank you for everything you do. And, I'm a little nervous because I'm one of those older adults, and it is getting harder and harder for us. And eventually when I'm on a fixed income, really fixed income, yeah, there's always worries about that. And what do you think is really happening with that? Is it largely, just not being able to afford just on a fixed income kind of a thing? Is
Correct, and as you know, just the cost of living, it continues to go up, and that fixed income does not. And as I had indicated, unfortunately, this population, they're just not, they're not in the workforce to earn wages, and we shouldn't, that we shouldn't be forcing folks to be in the workforce just to be able to pay their rent. So unfortunately, our conversation that you missed last week about the impact of the economy truly on many of the population, but in particular, our older adults is really foundationally the reason that we're seeing these numbers increase.
I'm seeing a lot of us older folks just keep working.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, though, a lot of us who do. The only positive thing is some of us that have to keep doing that, at least like our jobs. So I like working with you guys. So thanks, and good report.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, I understand mistakes happen and errors. I'm glad we're correcting it. We're being very public and transparent about that, so that's good. But, it's alarming. It came up almost every day in the last 5 or 6 days, actually 7, including Wednesday, so last week. But the silver tsunami, if you will, of older residents in Clackamas County or around the country, actually it's a trend, finding themselves homeless and in despair, economic despair. We've known for years that people that are in 50, sometimes even their 40s and older, suffer age discrimination. So sometimes they want to work but can't really get the work. So that magnifies the issue, and some of the folks, of course, can't go back to work. Maybe they have a handicap or whatnot. So. But 102 more, delta between 33 and 135 is 102. That's a significant number, 135 altogether. I mentioned this on Wednesday when we did the ribbon cutting. I'm Friday, yesterday. It's a constant conversation. I just don't know that we've got the adequate safety net to help these folks, and it's sad. if I can take anything out of this as an alarming, it's that the number's so high.
That's correct.
I just like, and I'm sure Commissioner West was here, and our new commissioner, figure out, what we have in our approach or strategy to cope with that. And so just remind me, what was the number for the senior, not senior, but the 55 and older prior in the last survey? I don't have that in front of me. It was from what to what?
See if this group behind me.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine. Can I phone a friend? Do you remember? They're looking too. Oh, 82.
82. So
82.
So that's about at least a 50% increase.
Yeah, in 2023, it was 20% of the number of individuals counted, so 82. This time, it's 135, 24% of the total, so.
And I just want to just add, some of the conversations I had have been unassociated to the government side of this. It's been the more the private sector and the, like care facilities and, for pay. What they're seeing just seeing a lot of people that need the help, need the service, need a home, but can't afford it, don't have the means to do it. So again, it's being described as a tsunami. And I'm just concerned how we cope with that, knowing that we have a higher population percentage compared to other counties of senior citizens. And I don't know if that number is growing or not, but on the homeless side, clearly it is. So, if there's a plan or a way or a means to address it, I'd like maybe to come back at some point in time when we have an idea how we cope with that.
Yeah, it's certainly a call to action, and the error, although unfortunate, in fact, is now highlighting our opportunity to get more organized. I think we've heard from social services with some of the older adult Americans Act funding, making sure that hopefully that funding does not get cut. But there's a real opportunity within H3S to partner really across our divisions who are working with the same population, but maybe at a different, coming at a different angle. So I think it truly is, Commissioner Savas, a call to action for us.
Great. Thank you for the update.
John Paul. Just a couple comments. First of all, I'm glad we identified that, so thank you. And echo what Paul says, mistakes do happen. I appreciate making sure that we got a hold of the media to correct it and got that out quickly, so thank you for doing that. And it also does kind of relieve me a little bit because as I looked at the numbers, it just didn't seem to add up. And I'm like, and I guess I would also caution everybody again, one lesson I learned when I was out there on that point in time count is that we are getting better at it. This is one tool and that it is most likely higher. And the reason they kind of said that is these are just the people we find. The weather's cold, they can be couch surfing. So to me, this is kind of that low number, really conservative number. And so, again, I believe this helps direct the county in priorities. And I so much believe in senior housing. I've learned through H3S staff in the back of the room about our seniors have way more health care issues. And it becomes a much more complex problem. But I know this board's really committed to really identifying ways where we can address this population. It's actually very sad. And I just know we're all committed to figuring this out, and hopefully supportive housing dollars and other things, we can really step our game up in there. What I would like you to do is just talk about your CHA account and how it's different, because that was one of the questions I kind of had was we do a really good job for kind of the public's knowledge. Maybe talk about that and is that number the same? Is it different? And what do you guys do about that?
Gary, would it be okay if I called Vahid Brown up to address that specifically? So Vahid Brown, Deputy Director of Housing and Community Development.
Thanks, Chair Roberts, and I heard your question from the back of the room. So the coordinated housing access and its difference with the point-in-time count is kind of the question you're asking. well, partly. So CHA, the Coordinated Housing Access Line, is our coordinated entry system to identify people who have a housing need and are in need of housing assistance. So in a sense, it's our year-round surveillance tool to identify people experiencing homelessness or who are at risk of experiencing homelessness, gathering information about them, monitoring that information and any changes in the household over time, and prioritizing from that group of people the most vulnerable for any available opening in an appropriate service or program to meet their housing need. The point-in-time count is a much less sophisticated instrument. It's a very blunt instrument as compared to the much more precise kind of surgical tool of a coordinated entry approach. The point-in-time count is a community survey done on, to focus on one night in the winter, where surveyors go, where will you or where did you sleep on the night of January 23rd? And if someone says, I slept in a car or in a tent or at the park, then we identify that person as experiencing homelessness. But there are people who don't respond, who say, no comment. I have no interest in talking to you, sir. And there are people who are, because of the stigma and sometimes criminalization of homelessness, are kind of hiding in places that they're finding to camp and kind of survive in the absence of shelter. And so we're not finding them. Now, you mentioned, Chair Roberts, that we're getting better, and we are. When in the 2023 count, even as recently as the most recent count, we had only the beginnings, the kind of the embryo of an outreach system. We had just executed the contracts with our community-based organizations for street outreach within a couple of months before the January count in 2023. Now, 2 years later, we have a 2-year experienced cadre of outreach experts who are familiar with those folks who are afraid of the stigma and the criminalization of their lack of shelter, and know where they are and know how to find them and develop trust and relationships with them and get them in our CHA. So that we know of them and we're prioritizing their needs appropriately, in comparison to the other members of the community that are in need of housing assistance. You are right, the PIT count is an undercount. And that is always the case. Even if we are getting better and better at getting out in the community and finding people wherever we can, and we are, we included 2 new sites to count people experiencing homelessness this year that we hadn't included before. So we have a broader net, and that is part of why we're seeing more people in the count. But I don't want to put it all, the increase is not simply to the better surveillance, it's also because I think we're seeing an increase in homelessness. But we know quite well, I think, throughout the year, because of CHA, because of Coordinated Housing Access, we have a very good sense of the scale of need. We have a very good sense that we can track on an ongoing basis how that scale of need changes, whether subpopulations are kind of disproportionately increasing or decreasing, and we're able to tailor our interventions and our programs to meet the most critical emergent need, which is going to continue to be older adults, people with chronic health issues, and people who are very low income and are unable to afford any kind of housing in the community. If you make very much less than 30% of area median income, there is not a single housing opportunity in this community, metro-wide, that you can afford. It just doesn't exist. So you're either going to be spending far more than you can afford on your housing, and at the expense of food and health care and transportation and other things, or you're going to be experiencing homelessness. So we do prioritize folks by vulnerability, and so I think we already have in place some systems to really focus on older adult homelessness. I do hear you loud and clear, though, that you want to hear more about how the department is planning to meet this tsunami of need. But the Coordinated Housing Access, by name list, so that's what we call the sum of everyone that's on our list that is experiencing literal homelessness. That's called the by name list. It is a larger number than the point-in-time count. And that has always been the case. I've been working on point-in-time counts in the Coordinated Housing Access System in Clackamas County for about 10 years, through a number of counts. That has always been true. The CHA, people who are comprising our CHA database, that is a larger number than the people that we identify on one night in January. And it is decreasing. It has been decreasing over the same period that our PIT trends have been decreasing. So this is why I think we say that the PIT count is a flawed tool. It's not perfect. It's a blunt instrument. It's an undercount, but it allows us to track trends, to sort of check a trend point against trends we're seeing internally. It gives us a point of comparison, and it also gives us nationally comparative data because every community does a point-in-time count, but not every community operates a sophisticated and robust coordinated entry system like Clackamas County does.
And it's maybe not today, but it would be nice to have you come back and present on your CHA numbers. And I'm sure you break down, by those that have maybe addiction or other issues and mental health. It would be really, I think, helpful just for us to educate us on that population. And I also want to highlight what I think is a great thing that H3S has done, and that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like one entry point, right? And that's what you call the by name list, and that people can call so that we're kind of have this one system, which is different than some of the other counties. So, and I heard you mention the phone number. What if somebody's homeless or on the edge of homeless? I know I'm making you
I got it.
pull that out for me, but for the public, I think it's important for all of us as the commissioners and to help get the message out that this is the number to call. So I'll let you go ahead and say it.
Yeah, so Coordinated Housing Access, or CHA, is at 503-655-8575. It's also online, and you can complete an assessment and answer many of the basic questions on the online form at clackamascounty.us. 503-655-8575.
And then if you call that number, they'll kind of triage kind of maybe what's best for that particular individual. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. That's determine the type, level, and duration of intervention most appropriate to the need that emerges in that call. And then they kind of go through different branches. This one is going here. This one is going here. Yeah, we triage all the calls.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for updating us, and I look forward to hearing more about the numbers and data. So thank you both very much. And with that, I don't see any other questions. This has been information only. And so, Gary, what is our next?
Thank you.
agenda?
Next, Recovery Campus, a monthly update. Mary, you can please stay. Cindy Becker.
Oh, good.
Please come forward. Cindy and Mary will present. This is just a monthly update on the progress of the Recovery Campus. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Cindy Becker, County Administration. I just zoomed up here from a meeting with the Governor's Office on this very project, so it's a good meeting. Today is just an update from the past one in April, and what I did here is highlight those things that are different, that are updated on the list of activities. And so we did submit our zoning application, and I think, Gary, you already talked about the deed and the change in the deed. Okay, fine. Thank you. We're looking at probably go to the Planning Commission in August, and then because you're in recess the last 2 weeks of August, it probably won't come back to you until September. And we had our kickoff meeting with Fora Health on design, and the whole team, so folks from the architectural group and the builders, and so that's going really well. And what I wanted to turn you to is the map that's on the first attachment, so you can get a sense of what we're looking at in terms of positioning the footprint of the yeah, my printer ran out of ink, so, but you all have that in your packet. And so, as part of the rezoning, as we've talked about in the past, the current property has two zones, high-density residential and open space. And in order to really have a complete application and one that's successful, is we had to leave some part of the property as open space. You can't just take away 4 acres of open space and not provide something in replacement. So what we're looking at now is, this may not be the exact positioning of the buildings, but we're looking at the open space here would be on Tolbert Road, and that's 1 acre, and that will also provide a buffer for the community as well as the buildings themselves. We have not decided what to do yet with the 1 acre. We'll be meeting with a Good Neighbor group and talk about potential uses of that space. We'll also probably talk to OSU and Master Gardeners and see what we can do that's really an interactive property. The other spaces are the two buildings. One is on the left will be the clinical building, and that will have the detox and residential treatment, administration offices, peers, and the various training opportunities there. And then the other building will be transitional housing, and that will also include the outpatient services. Those buildings, we're looking right now in terms of the positioning of those buildings. They may not look exactly like this, but the footprint will look like this. And then you can see the open space, which is about almost 4 acres up to the northeast part of the map. I don't know if that's really north, but anyway, on this it's northeast. And we're going to be having a planning session with you in July to talk about that space. So there is a good amount of space there to actually do some great work. Any questions about the footprint?
Questions?
I don't have a question, just have a comment, and that is that unassociated with Fora in your presentation, thank you for this, it's helpful, but I want to make sure that we've got someone looking at any opportunities that come up for other acquisitions, property acquisitions nearby that could grow, that potentially grow this, knowing that we have a growing need coming for whether it's housing or whatnot, but I just see other opportunities around this, not for the Fora Health aspect of this, but for, again, whatever it may be that might assist in this continuum.
Sure, Commissioner. I'll be honest, we don't have anybody actively looking at that, but Mary and I will get together and look at that and maybe pull Dan in to help in terms of potential properties. So thank you for that. We have scheduled the board tour of the Cherry Blossom facility. That will be in July, and we have scheduled a meeting with the Good Neighbor Group in June to tour the facilities. As I mentioned, we're resubmitting the federal earmark because the earmarks didn't get funded, so we'll putting that request in. And then we're continuing to look at funding. We had a really good meeting with the Clackamas Caucus, and they have put together a letter which has been signed off by 10 of the caucus members in support of this project. And so we are sharing that. We'll get the letter today, and we're sharing that with other folks. We also are looking at potential funding through the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Capital Construction. They have about $500 million in that pot, but they got $2 billion worth of requests. So, but we testified about a week and a half ago. It waited 3 hours to give a 2-minute testimony. They only allowed 2 minutes, and they said if you're in the middle of a sentence, we don't care because we're cutting you off. So, but we went and did that, and then we've had 2 meetings with the governor's office staff. They're very supportive of the project. It just, it comes down to money, and with the forecast changing, no one's making any commitments at this time, but we're continuing to pursue that. And that's it, really. The last attachment, I wanted to give you a sense of Fora Health as an organization, so this is just for your information. But they're really a stellar group. They've performed well, and we're really happy that we're contracting with them.
Fantastic.
Questions?
Questions? Martha, any other, Paul? I'd like to agree with Paul. Is kind of paying attention to any nearby property. I think this is, whenever you have a campus, it's much more cost effective, as you know, to have everything in one kind of area. And the other thing, I hope you consider it. I've visited other drug and alcohol treatment programs. They have walking paths, and they also have, gardens. Now there's pickleball, and so it's always good to have some activities, So I'm sure you're thinking of that, but as a
Absolutely.
big pickleball fan, it'd be great for folks to be able to have that there. So
Absolutely,
that nice spot.
yes.
So,
Yes.
thank you very much. Oh, Martha.
Yeah,
Scott.
just real quick. So are things going okay with the neighbors?
So we had a meeting with the Good Neighbor Group last week. And actually, it was a much more productive meeting. We had good questions. We have Devarshi, who's the executive director of Fora Health, join the group, and we'll actually kind of turn it over to him over time. And so lots of good questions, information. The demeanor of the group, the tenor was much more cordial.
Yeah, because I'm hopeful with what the other development that's there with disabled, adults that they're feeling more and more comfortable knowing that this is going to be actually, I think, a good addition to the neighborhood, not a problematic issue for them.
Yeah, and we have 2 members of WeBuild, 2 parents of WeBuild who are on the Good Neighbor Group.
Great, okay, so they're there.
All right. Well, thank you both very much. Information only, so we'll go ahead and move on. And Gary, excuse me, what is next?
Thank you. Next is a legislative update based on a request from Commissioner Savas to hear an update on civil commitments and rest area at government camp. PGA wrote a memo on both topics, but Tonya Holoweski, Director, will give a quick update and then answer your questions. Go ahead, Tonya.
Hello again, Commissioners. I'm here now to provide an informational update on 2 legislative topics. Unfortunately, Trent Wilson, our Government Affairs Manager, had to be in Salem today, but he did provide me with information that I will provide to you. So the first update is on civil commitment legislation, and that involves 2 bills, 2 House bills. First bill is House Bill 2467, which proposes to expand civil commitment criteria, basically lowering the bar to get someone civilly committed. The bill would change the definition of danger to self and danger to others. The Association of Oregon Community Mental Health Programs supports the bill, while the Disability Rights Oregon group opposes the bill. The bill passed out of committee in early April and is in Ways and Means at this point, and we are on record as supporting this bill. The second bill addressing civil commitment is House Bill 2488, which extends the time frame from when diversion can occur from 3 days to between 14 and 28 days. The bill comes from a work group hosted by Representative Kropf on civil commitment and aid and assist topics that covered everything except the civil commitment criteria, which was in the first bill that I mentioned. And with this bill, diversion can take place at any time prior to the conclusion of the civil commitment hearing. And final decisions on the full package of aid and assist and civil commitment bills have not been made. House Bill 2488-4 was scheduled for a work session on May 14th, but it was not heard on that date. Yesterday, we learned that the bill has been scheduled for a work session tomorrow, May 21st at 5 p.m. So that is the information I have for civil commitment. Would you like me to move on to government area, camp, rest area, or pause here for any questions or comments?
I think you can move on. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So with respect to the government camp rest area, this is primarily an ODOT project, and they are assessing a new location for a rest area at the base of the Summit Pass ski area adjacent to government camp. Staff currently is not aware of legislators' interest in prioritizing funding for this work in 2025. Early in the session, we did meet with all Clackamas legislators, and 2 legislators who represent this area agreed with the need, but were prioritizing funding for the Hood River Bridge, which is also in their district. The co-chairs of the Joint Committee on Transportation have held firm that the transportation package will not include any new projects to be funded. And since seeing little to no interest by the representing legislators, we have focused on I-205, the State Highway Fund formula, Sunrise, and of course, transit funding. So at this point, we're monitoring and we'll keep you informed as we learn more.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of confusion on this, and so I'll do the best I can to explain this. Chair Roberts, I served, the board's had me assigned to be the liaison on this project, and it's an Oregon consensus project at the state level, so there's a facilitator that's helping that. And whenever I show up to these meetings, ODOT's very clear to say this is not our project. So that's part of the confusion, okay? So it's the OTIC who is the agency who's in charge of this, and they need assistance from ODOT. ODOT is at the table, but there again, the funding is, I'm understanding, I talked to the OTIC about this at length, and they tell me that the funding has to be an appropriation to them to fund it. And so wherever that comes from, but it's not ODOT whose
Thank you.
project.
Thank you.
So it shouldn't interfere with the package because, whether it's planning or whether it is, ODOT's involved, obviously, they need to permit it, they need to be, they have a role. But, so that's where part of the confusion is. So I just want to make sure that it's on their radar, our caucus, on their radar to understand the problem. If we don't understand the problem, then we're going to have maybe a misunderstanding of where the money comes from or whose project it is, and that still is the case, obviously. So, if you all could look into that a little bit deeper, I know they have funds to proceed, but they don't have funds to complete.
Okay.
So they're moving on the planning stage. So it would, again, I think it'd be mutually beneficial to understand whose role, and there's a lot of different hats here. Even the Forest Service is involved. There's a number of people around the table that are all involved in this. But the OTIC is an unknown committee, and for everyone's knowledge, this was something that ODOT tried to discard the responsibility for rest stops and areas, and has signed this committee to take care of that. And that includes road signage and all the rest stops. So they're not managed by ODOT at all. Most people don't know that. We assume that rest areas are managed by ODOT. They're not. Okay. That's another misunderstanding. So thank you for what you got here today. And I would still ask to press forward a little bit on this to get clarification so everyone understands the field.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
And I just might add, I met with staff up there at the government camp area, and I was shocked at that restroom has at times 3,000 people per day using it. I was just, and so it is absolutely a critical rest area for people traveling. So I sure hope they don't take it down before the new one's up, because a lot of people use that restroom. So anyway, just
Okay.
food for thought. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Gary, what is next?
Thank you. Next is Business Outreach Strategy Plan from our Office of Economic Development and Transportation and Development, presenting Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, and Laura Edmonds, Manager of the Economic Development Office, to update you on their plans. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Roberts, Commissioners. We are here. I have the pleasure of being joined by Laura Edmonds, the Manager for Office of Economic Development, to kind of share a desire or an outline for a plan to engage our businesses more proactively throughout Clackamas County. It has a number of different elements to it, and so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Laura to kind of run through a general summary of it, but it's a pretty deep dive, and we'll be looking for some direction at some point in time about other engagements you might like to do. We're open for that discussion whenever you might like to have it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Laura.
Chair Roberts, Commissioners, pleasure to be with you today. So thanks for having us. So based on recent conversations, a few of you have already indicated your desire to engage with the business community and to be out and visible to help support our ongoing business-friendly environment in Clackamas County. So what we've done is we've just basically put together a very strategic outline for you to be able to personally engage with businesses throughout the county, attend business meetings, industrial site, city tours, those kinds of things. This plan, I think, is very robust. It'll help you to proactively spotlight not just the video, that we're going to plan on a video program, and we're going to start with the 10 grantees that were awarded the business development grants last year. So those recorded messages will be a great value to the board, for the investment you've made in the business community, but also will allow you to engage in meetings with various businesses throughout the community. That way you can then bring your own success stories back to your issues and board meetings to be able to talk about your personal perceptions and what you gained from those meetings. So we believe it's a pretty integrated program. It will also include a number of business forums, and so some of those could be very topic specific, but also it's a great way to be able to bring the businesses together, collaborate, hear from them, and then talk about what their challenges and opportunities are. So in your attachment A is a pretty detailed outline of this approach. And again, we believe it to be well-rounded, very strategic. So you get to personally engage. We're going to be able to proactively spotlight businesses. You're going to be able to be informed of opportunities to go out and connect at just annual events that we're attending or part of with more robust regional, statewide conversations, federal conversations for the business communities, and talk about the economy as a whole with them to be able to really get plugged in. So the business meetings will also tie to the Office of Economic Staff's regular scheduled meetings. Those will be a little bit more sporadic in nature. So one, we want to be very strategic in orchestrating one-on-one meetings for you to businesses or industries that you might be interested in going out and engaging with. So we'll work with your PAs to be able to develop a very specific schedule that accommodates your availability, but also let you know and inform you when staff is attending one-on-one meetings that are already tied to our direct business plan. And those will be a little bit short notice, sporadic in nature. So they'll be orchestrated, planned, sporadic, and just advance notice for other regional meetings. So great opportunity there. The spotlight videos, again, we're going to start with the 10 businesses that were granted funding, so that will really be able to showcase the investment that you've made through those grants and be able to identify those businesses and really tell their story, which we can use then in our website, marketing materials, and such. Then the business outreach opportunities, these will be, again, we'll go back to like annual events, and these might be partner Oregon Business and Industry, West Side Economic Alliance. There's a number of economic forums, business, the state of Oregon's summits that they hold, so we'll make sure that you guys are informed of those activities and engagement opportunities when you'll be able to hear from a broader statewide audience and businesses, so that they'll give you a different perspective of various industries and collaborative opportunities. So with that, do you have any questions? This one? Okay, so the business forums. So we talked about business forums, and these can be hosted or co-hosted along with partners. We plan on 3 forums for 2025. One of them is the State of the County Forum, which is already scheduled through PGA for October 15th at Clackamas Community College. And then 2 other business and industry forums, and those topics will be determined based on your desired outcome from those discussions.
So first, boy, I have to give you both accolades, because it wasn't that long ago we met about this, and this plan is incredibly comprehensive. So I want to thank you for all your hard work on that. And I think the business forums are really important. And, you know, we talked about the shortage of healthcare providers, the chance that at those forums we can talk about those. CNAs, nurses, and ideas working. I know we have the college in the back, and how we can help step up our nursing program any way we can to meet the pending need. The other thing, I know OSU's in the back, so I just have to comment on this. I was just at AOC, and they were doing a presentation, and I talked to Gary about it. Oregon being one of the number one Christmas tree producers and in the country, and then Clackamas is number 1 in the state. So again, I think it's those kinds of things that really recognizing those growers, and it just is amazing to see the diversity in Clackamas County. So I want to turn it over to my colleague Martha, who has a comment.
I want to thank you for this, because back in the day, when I was a new commissioner, we hadn't done anything like this before, and I was kind of on my own, just randomly calling businesses saying, because we kept talking about jobs, and I didn't know what that meant. I was a biologist by training, so I figured, well, I better learn about this. And so went to visit all of these businesses, and they would always say to me, you know, like, who are you and why are you here? You know, and I kind of say, well, I'm the government, I'm here to help. I actually would say that to them. And they go, seriously? And I go, no. Seriously, but out of that, with the wonderful help of Shelley Perini, who's a colleague of ours, who we know and love for years, that she really helped start a very similar initiative. And, you know, with all the changes that we've happened in the county between COVID and other kinds of upheavals, that we hadn't had a coherent strategy for a while, and I'm so happy to see that the gifted Laura Edmonds and Dano, we love you, come back and really revitalize something that we had always prioritized in this county. And I think all of us are looking forward to getting out there and really meeting with these folks directly, saying, you know, what are your hurdles? What do you need? How can we collaborate? Here are the tools we have in our toolkit to help you expand, and then to use that base of our sector analysis of what we have here and who has what, maybe help bring some more recruitment in, particularly in that Happy Valley area. Hopefully finally get the Sunrise done and really have a cohesive program. But thank both of you. Wow. Yeah, I've been waiting for this a long time. And I also want to thank Laura. We had an opportunity to go to the Oregon Manufacturing OMIC Innovation, and that was something that a workforce initiative that Betsy Johnson helped initiate that combines Oregon State University, actually out in Scappoose, with materials research and manufacturing, with local with local private sector businesses that are helping to fund this, to get people with training. It was something that we emulated from Sheffield, England. I had the opportunity to visit Sheffield, and hopefully had a minor role in encouraging us to get this model. I did have a brief conversation with the governor yesterday, actually the day before yesterday, I forget what time it is. And one of the things I mentioned to her was maybe getting together, looking at our workforce system, because if we were to do something substantive, it would be to take that model and replicate it with our local community colleges and research institutions across the state for workforce, combining that connection with the traded sector and other mid-sized businesses that need a workforce. You know, to me, that would be like the big ideal. I don't know how doable it is. I haven't really spoken to the governor about it directly. I have spoken to her liaison for workforce. So I'm hopeful if I get any traction that you guys will be there to help out with that, too, with our local workforce board. So, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I appreciate bringing this forward. And, you know, over the years, when I have, you know, either meet someone or been asked to come by and look at their facility or whatnot, you know, I'm just going to tag off of Martha's comment about we're government, we're here to help. I always laugh at that, right? Because, you know, I think people feel, businesses especially feel, that ain't really the case. You actually are doing more damage, and the you or the we is maybe sometimes not here to pass the buck, because sometimes our role on land use might be, if someone wants to expand, Dan, you know that. Some local land use laws, you know, again, set by the state, not by ourselves, can be an impediment. But what I often hear, and we heard from our new commissioner, Diane Helms, talk about yesterday a little bit too, and just feeling the pain. I've been in the business for a long time, since I was a kid. I understand trying to meet all the regulations and requirements and everything else, and that is just accelerated, and the burdens are just problematic for a lot of businesses. So with that said, what I think might be helpful here is in my initial outreach, or my recent outreach to Dan, talk about this, is that I think it'd be valuable. Someone's phone's buzzing.
It's not mine.
Excuse me.
It would be valuable, I think, maybe if we could coordinate some of these visits with a state legislator or two that are interested. You know, that is, you know, we do have one legislator I can think of now that reached out to me on behalf of a local business. And she brings a business background. She's got experience in that. So I think tapping or identifying which state legislators have that background, because I think Commissioner Helms' comments yesterday were spot on. I think, sure, there are legislators that have run businesses and know it, but not enough. And so I think that might be helpful, because maybe they can be part of the solution. I don't want to show up and say, we're county government, maybe help you expand, but maybe, I want to be able to offer something. And I think that having a state legislator or two interested in that realm, as well as a county commissioner or two, would also be a benefit to help them or identify what their challenges are. Because often we just kick it, oh, that's a state problem, that's a state problem. Well, why'd you show up here, right, essentially. But anyhow, I'm glad to see this plan, and whatever we can do to strengthen our communications and relationships with our chambers and economic business alliances and greater, I know we're doing that always, but I really look to not just here in Clackamas, but have a lot of respect for what's going on at Westside Economic Alliance as well as the Clackamas County Business Alliance. So whatever you do to strengthen their effectiveness together would be appreciated.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. And just one other comment. I know there was a report that recently came out about businesses leaving Oregon, and I think it might be great to have you kind of review that, kind of come give us kind of your thoughts on the interpretation of that report, and maybe some things that we could do to avoid the poaching. So anyway, I think that's all I have to say. Yes, sir, go ahead.
We have a lot of great thoughts about that. And I want to thank all the commissioners and the chair for the comments today, and appreciate the acknowledgement of the plan. Know that we'd love to come back to you. If you're good with the plan, we'll come back to you at a future issues discussion and kind of outline options for those forums, and then get your guidance on what forums you'd like to move forward. Healthcare is a really interesting one right now, because it is one of our key clusters within Clackamas County. And it's pretty expansive. We also have a significant investment going on right now with Kaiser Hospitals, with a 600,000 square foot expansion at their Sunnyside campus as well. But we'll bring forward some considerations for you to kind of vet, and then give us some guidance on that. And then also, we'll collaborate with county administration to figure out how we get these in front of you for consideration, and make sure that information regarding these various opportunities is provided to all of you, and you can coordinate, or they can help coordinate who attends what moving forward. I guess more specific, it's really an interesting discussion on the legislative component there, and the state representation as well, because every business, depending on their size and the scale, has a different kind of problem. And you're right, a lot of the discussions that we have, because I don't think we have a bad story to tell, in all honesty. I think Clackamas County, it's interesting, we had a number of business focus groups around Sunrise, and we had a number of major employers in that area basically say, we love Clackamas County. We want to stay in Clackamas County. In the Portland metropolitan region, it is a business-friendly environment, from operations to politics to whatever it might be, which is great information to hear. But the nuance around that goes back to that report. It goes back to how do you retain a lot of those businesses, and the nurturing and feeding and caring of those businesses and what they need. And then also, it's funny you brought up the workforce discussion, Commissioner Schrader. We were just having that in the back of the room a little bit ago. And we'd like to have a more focused dialogue with you about that as well.
I would, because also I think we're going to be having a change on our workforce board. I believe Bridget Daisy is retiring at this point. So I've been meeting to get a hold of Brooke, who is the PG, but she's the chair of that board, and again, get back into the loop of how we're going to move forward with a new director, and what that might mean with a closer partnership between our business outreach and workforce development. So, and I'm sure they'll be very open to that.
Commissioner Savas had a comment.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention this. I was going to say it when Commissioner Schrader was talking about workforce. I can sit here in all honesty and say that my biggest challenge as a business owner was workforce, lack of a labor pool of trained people, or people wanting to work, or people eligible, or didn't have an addiction problem, whatever it may be, all of the above. So I appreciate, just so happens that we have some of our education institutions here in the back in the room, but I think knowing that we have, I think untapped resource out over there, and that really is maybe some people that are struggling to make ends meet and find themselves in difficult situations, and we learn from the Veterans Village, for example, a number of places, if we can get someone, lift them up and get them into places and transition them into housing or education, training, whatever it may be, that's a huge lift. But that was my number one challenge for decades, is just the workforce. And Laura, you and I have had conversations about that. I know that chamber members mentioned that, other businesses mentioned that as well. So it seems with the schools and education, there ought to be, opportunity to tap some of those folks and figure out, making sure that we're aligning as much as we can opportunities in education and training and, labor,
labor's
a lot of training facilities that are training services are provided by the building trades, for example, which is it helps them. It's a natural fit. So, I just want to give a plug for that. And thanks for your work.
All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, this is, again, information update only. No questions, we'll move on. And the next thing on here is Commissioner Communication. It's not yet.
Note, review of your business meeting agenda this Thursday, May 22nd, 10 a.m. You have a lengthy consent agenda, which will be the case between now and June 30th, the end of your fiscal year. And you'll be meeting as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, the Development Agency, and Water Environment Services also for consent agenda. If you have any questions on these items, please tell me before Thursday so I may have staff in the room to answer your questions. Final item is Commissioner Communications, and you have an 11 a.m. policy session.
Exactly. So I was just going to ask my colleagues if we could hold off on Commissioner Communications. Is
I
that
have
all right?
nothing. I'm happy to pass.
Sure.
And if we could maybe take a short 5-minute recess, and we'll be right back. So we'll adjourn for 5 minutes.
Oh, there. That's good.
see
That's
it?
good.
Can
You
you
got
see
it. You got it.
There we go. All right, I'll reconvene of the Board of County Commissioners, and as soon as I do that, I'll recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as Extension and 4-H Service District Board of Directors. And Gary, would you introduce our next topic for us?
Yes, Chair, thank you. You are now sitting as the Extension and 4-H Service District of Clackamas County, of which you are the governing body. You are here to talk about a potential future site of the Extension and 4-H Service District of Clackamas County, which would be the former Bob's Red Mill Restaurant and Store. You've talked about this briefly already, but this is a formal policy session to discuss this proposal. And before you finish today, the question is, do you want to move forward or not? We do need your direction before the end of today. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, will kick this off with a quick overview. We also have guests from Oregon State University and Clackamas Community College. To start at the table is Chris Elliott, who is the Vice Provost for Extension and Engagement and Director of OSU Extension at Oregon State University, and Dr. Tim Cook, the President of Clackamas Community College. Thank you both for being here. So again, Nancy will kick it off, and then Chris, if you'd go next, and then Dr. Cook, just really high overview, and then the board. We have multiple staff here to answer any question you may have on this project. With that, Nancy, go ahead,
All right,
please.
good morning. Thank you. So as Gary said, today we're here seeking board direction on the future site of the Extension 4-H District Education Facility. Should staff pursue a facility at the vacant Bob's Red Mill Store for the OSU Extension 4-H site, or continue the partnership with Clackamas Community College for the site? For several years, the OSU Extension 4-H District has been planning for a new building, and over time, they have saved up over $15 million for the facility. In the fall of 2022, the board chair at that time began seeking creative partnerships with Clackamas Community College president, which was Dr. Cook at the time, and the then vice provost of OSU Extension. In November of '24, Clackamas Community College's $120 million bond renewal was passed. And as a part of that renewal, it was discussed in some of the meetings that they had, community meetings, that the Extension Center would be a part of that Natural Resource Center for Excellence. However, Clackamas Community College has reported since then that there are no restrictions on the bond and that it must be used for the Extension Center. Excuse me. So recently, County Administration received a request from Oregon State University staff to consider the purchase of the recently available Bob's Red Mill Store for the OSU Extension facility. As part of the IGA between Clackamas County and OSU, The county is responsible for ownership of the building as well as maintenance and operation of the Clackamas Extension Program, unless there is a separate mutual agreement. If the board directs staff to purchase the Bob's Red Mill store, it will be owned and maintained by the Clackamas County unless another agreement is reached. And so today, again, we're asking direction on maintaining the path toward, we're working with Clackamas Community College or changing course to purchase Bob's Red Mill. Thank you.
All right. I'm sorry. Elliott, are you a doctor? Dr.
I am,
Elliott?
but Chris is fine.
Chris is fine. Chris
Yep.
Elliott from Oregon
Yep.
State. Would you go next, please?
Thank you. Chair Roberts, commissioners, staff, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And more than anything, I want to thank you for your over 100 years of partnership with OSU Extension, certainly one of the premier counties in terms of extension services across the country, not just the state. So really thank you for that. Also want to acknowledge the very atypical timeline of this issue and appreciate, commissioners, your efforts, your staff, your county council, everyone who's helped make this happen. We really appreciate that. What brought us here today is really how we work generally across the state, and it came from a community recommendation and a community discussion. As you know, we have an advisory board here at the county level, and the opportunity of Bob's Red Mill came through that process. And so upon strong recommendation from our advisory group and our community stakeholders, we took a careful look at the facility and the site to visit and investigate its potential use for the service district. Upon review, we requested an architect to visit the site as well. We pride ourselves in being very wise with taxpayer resources and wanted to make sure that this was a wise investment. And upon review, recognized that renovations would be fairly minimal in terms of the cost of the building in comparison. And so we sought to continue the partnership with the county and request the county support the potential purchase of the site. I also want to make it really, really clear that we value our partnership with Clackamas Community College. That will not change. In fact, we intend to, regardless of today's decision, work with Dr. Cook to bring together a work group to talk about that partnership, its future, whether the building is purchased or not. We are committed to working with the college, and certainly there will always be a presence, particularly with the natural resource programs on campus. And so that remains important to us and to me since stepping into this role in March. So the purpose of today's conversation is deciding if this works for the people of this county, and I just want to share a few highlights. One, this site, this facility will allow us to reach more folks, expand capacity, and potentially even bring more staff and faculty into the region. So this gives us space to bring some of our faculty and staff that serve the entire region because we have space to house and co-locate them together. That provides lots of opportunities for collaboration, also events. The site also allows easy access for the public. So when you think about its location, the easy access off an expressway, the ample parking, and the space, there are so many opportunities for us to bring together community events and gatherings that will benefit the people of this county. As you know, many programs operate here in the Extension Service District in the county, everything from 4-H youth development, family and community health, urban horticulture through the Master Gardener program, forestry and natural resources. And we look forward to expanding opportunities through things like our Juntos program, which is delivered in Spanish, and our open campus programs. So as you see before you, there's been a budget prepared, and I think when you think about our investigation of this opportunity versus the continued partnership through a space at the community college, I think you see that this is a wise fiscal investment for the tax service district. When you think of the purchase price and the rough estimates and what renovations might need to take place, that still leaves a pretty healthy balance in the building fund. And we know that's important because there's always deferred maintenance and things arise. But it also leaves resources for us to continue to investigate our partnership and work together with the community college for facilities that really fit the needs of the natural resources programs and that align with the work that the community college is doing. So that's sort of the overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it over to my colleague, and we can answer questions when they're appropriate.
if we could have Dr. Cook speak next, and then questions, please, Chair.
Thank you, Gary.
And Tim's fine as well. For all the commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you today, and staff as well. I did want to point out my board chair for the college is here. Jane Reed is sitting in the back here as well. So if there are questions from the board, she's here and able to do that. So as was indicated, about January of 2022, the previous chair of the Clackamas County Commissioners and the previous extension director from OSU met with me to discuss the potential opportunity of relocating onto our campus. And at that time, the question was, do you have any facilities that you're not using? Is there anything that we could remodel perhaps and come onto campus? We didn't, but we had been working on our master plan actually that was approved in January 2023. And we knew that we were going to if we passed a bond, make a significant investment into a natural resources center. And so the discussion at that time shifted then to say, would you be interested in partnering with us should we be successful in this bond? And so we ended up having a number of discussions at that time. We brought in some staff from the college and from OSU as well, and started visioning a little bit about what that could look like. And that became a big cornerstone of our bond as we went out and met with just about everybody in Clackamas County, as you do when you're trying to get a bond passed. We talked a lot about what could be, and the way, I've given this presentation a number of times, I framed it for folks is that it was an opportunity in Clackamas County to really bring together the OSU Extension Office, the college, and local farming horticulture businesses to really create a center where we could focus on the future of farming and the future of horticulture, and really have a space where people could learn, could take classes, could really be involved. It's kind of an exciting vision. We were careful not to make any promises in that bond because, as we're here today, things change and they don't always work out the way that you intend when you're working on that. So we were really careful to say this is a possibility, this is something we're exploring. And we were of course thrilled when the bond passed, and to date we're literally this Friday down to our 4 finalists for our RFP for architects to really design this building. So for us, similarly, we've had a long partnership with OSU Extension. I see that continuing. I see, depending on the outcome of today's decision, that will depend on what that looks like moving forward, but I still see us partnering in some way. I would just say, for us, we would shift, of course, what that building, what that facility will look like, and I think there might be a missed opportunity there then to really integrate and really think about this in a holistic way. Would be my kind of final remark on that.
Commissioner Savas, go ahead.
Yeah. I know this came really late to a lot of us, right? And I appreciate our meeting last week just to get a briefing, just a couple of us, Chair Roberts and I. And I think responsibly, when we first heard about this, I think the administration of the county's concern was, would OSU take ownership and responsibility for the facility itself as opposed to the county? Because we have a lot of buildings, a lot of property, a lot of burdens that come with that, and don't really have the bandwidth and the finances to cover any other expenses down the line or whatnot. So do you have, go like Chris. So Chris, do you have a response to that? Is OSU prepared to take ownership?
Commissioner, my understanding is that the county, at least in the agreement as indicated thus far, that the county would take ownership of the building. What I can tell you is the service district budget accounts for costs, maintenance costs, annual costs, facility upgrade costs, renovation costs, deferred maintenance costs, and the projections are very healthy. And I think it positions us in a much safer way than perhaps moving forward with the current partnership. I think that, of course, would be owned by the community college, but when you look at those costs of the building and the investment, this is a lower cost, which allows more of those reserves to be used for those incidental things that may arise.
Well, we have had our legal counsel review that, and there is a carve out that in circumstances that ownership can be conveyed. So it doesn't necessarily have to fall within the county ownership. So that's one thing that concerns me. But I appreciate, I know this is limited, I know there's a limited amount of time, but there's also this pro forma, if you will, is pretty limited as well. So I would love to hear, as I understand it, there was an arrangement and a deal with the college, in this case, Clackamas Community College, for the facility that Mr. Cook's kind of outlined. I really wanted to hear from the board members of the board of Clackamas Community College, and I see the chairs here, so I would really like to have that input, because it sounds like a deal was already in the works, and as Mr. Cook has outlined, you know, a lot of excitement in the community about being cohabitated on the facility and the holistic elements of that. So it appealed to a lot of people, including myself. We were ecstatic about that partnership in the location. So, you know, I'm just going to be very candid where I personally feel, but at the same token, I do want to hear from anyone you think I ought to hear from today, including the board chair, if I could.
Yeah, so Gary, if we could.
we do that
perhaps
now,
move
please?
to Anybody else that, we want to give them the opportunity to come forward, and we might have to call you back up if that's all right.
Sure.
We hear from the board chair, please. Dr. Cook first.
Oh, sorry, don't worry. I'll come back.
Oops. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Chair and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Jane Reed. I am Chair of the Clackamas Community College Board of Directors. And also I am representing my zone is Zone 6, which is Estacada, Colton, and Malala. So if you want to talk about Christmas trees.
Yes, lots of them.
So as a board, we're very excited about this. We were following, we were getting updates over the years about these discussions going on, and it just was very exciting for a lot of the reasons that were already spoken to, that it would be on the campus, that it would be this great collaboration, that it would be a natural resources center, that there would be indoor and outdoor opportunities, that there would be kind of one-stop shopping, that there would be abilities for businesses to be involved. So I would say, however, that as a board, we were just informed of discussions and things going on. We never took a stand. But I also can say that when I was out campaigning for the bond and when mentioned this to people in the communities, it was like, this is great. This makes so much sense. This is a wonderful opportunity for our students, a wonderful opportunity for our community members, a wonderful opportunity for businesses, a wonderful opportunity for the Extension Service. It just seemed to be like a once-in-a-lifetime possibility that coincided with the bond being passed. So that's probably about all I can say to this. Just I know that it just pretty much that's what I can say to this, that it was so well received in the community, and that I believe I can speak for my fellow board members and all of their zones as well, and not all of their zones, but I believe I can speak for all of my fellow board members that they are excited about it too. So I hope, if you have any questions, I'm not sure I can answer them any better than Dr.
Yeah, I just want to be
answer.
clear, excited about having it at the campus is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, it
Just
would
wanted
be
to be
beautiful.
clear on that. And Commissioner Schrader has a question.
Well, actually, I was going to have a comment. Thank you for being here, Jane. And I just again wanted to double check in with you that indeed this was something that there was an expectation to the voters. It sounds as if, as they were conversing this, that this was something that was going to be, nothing had been signed, but it was an underlying assumption that this was going to be an opportunity for the combination of Oregon State University and our local community college in a way that never has been happened before. Is that kind of an accurate?
Well, I would say that we were really careful about saying this is an expectation that this is going to happen. We were saying we are hopeful that this will happen.
Okay.
Because it had not been, officially part of the bond, I don't think we felt comfortable saying that. But describing the potential of it resonated with people.
And my understanding that the polling of this was very, very high to have this kind of an opportunity. So there was public information out in the community that seemed to indicate one way or the other that this would be an exciting
Yes. Yes.
thing to have happen. And so I just wanted to, because one of the things, colleagues, we have to consider as we move forward with this is what are people expecting out there in terms of this? And indeed, I personally was extremely excited for this opportunity for two reasons. I love Clackamas Community College. I have a special connection to Oregon State University and the extension folks here. I love you, Wendy. How are you? Good to see you. Kelly, actually. Wendy's still in Portugal, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay. And I guess what I thought about that was the reason, again, OSU is such a connection, because I don't know if many people know, but my ex-husband, Kurt Schrader, who was a veterinarian, was largely responsible for starting moving the veterinary college as a full 4-year institution at OSU rather than the model that they had where you did part of it in Washington and part of it in. And I'm also an entomologist and has visited their entomology museum. So I love both institutions. Big supporter of Clackamas Community College, and also a supporter of our land-grant institutions, which are the backbone of our educational institutions across the United States. Not an OSU Aggie, but I am a Cornell Aggie, as much as that is, so go Big Red. My inclination at this point, I have to say to my friends at OSU, this has been rather a sudden issue that's come up. And I've been very involved in extension for years and years and years in terms of support, in terms of, what we do with the tree school and things of that sort. And I'm a little puzzled with the speed with which this suddenly happened. When again working with when Chair Smith was here, that the expectation was that this was really something that was going to be a great collaborative effort. I understand the attraction of Bob's Red Mill because it is a lovely building. It's got a kitchen. It has facilities, things of that sort. But I do have serious issues with the location. It's kind of in an industrial area. I would drive there all the time. As far as access, it doesn't seem as, from my perspective, as a location as it would be at the college. It's closer to our rural-urban interface. There is a major horticulture program. I was really excited myself about seeing our higher education land-grant institution having a significant partnership with our community college in a way that was actually going to be quite innovative. And I'm kind of a big fan of that innovative kind of partnerships. I respect the fact that the board of OSU sees this as an opportunity for Bob's Red Mill, but I am still not fully convinced that would be the best site for what you need to do. It would be a quick site. I'm not convinced that, again, I am worried about the maintenance issue that we would have, and I think that a co-location with the college would be a better opportunity for figuring out, what those costs would be. And so at this point in time, I'm rather reluctant to move forward. I'll put it out there. My apologies to my friends at Extension, who I love dearly, but I'm really feeling as if this has just come on too quickly for us to really make an appropriate assessment at this point, my preference at this point would be to my OSU friends. I would really like to see this partnership with the community college continue, because I like the location better in terms of access for our agricultural community. Red Mill is a great building, and yeah, you have programs, but it really is, I just think about it as not close enough to the urban-rural interface in a way where a co-location at the college, and plus the possibilities for faculties from our land-grant institution and the faculty of our local community college would be a model for the entire state in something of this sort. And in times when funding is getting tighter for all these institutions, it seems to me that kind of collaboration would really be beneficial in the long term. So those are just my thoughts. I don't know, colleagues, if Chair, if you have any questions or any thoughts about this at all.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is give Commissioner
Savas another chance. Okay.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I concur with a lot of my thoughts Commissioner Schrader has just expressed, and I can see the unique intrinsic value of both facilities, right? But I also, it's not lost on me how many people, citizens who were considering how they voted on the bond and knowing the bond barely passed, right? And I would say, actually, from some people's perspective that have reached out to me since the news article came out on this on Friday, were quite outspoken in saying, had I not been for this element of that, I wouldn't have voted for it. So it feels as though there's this a responsibility to the voters, if you will, to follow through, and also that I also heard from folks that they felt a deal was, hatched with the college. And so it wasn't as though we are killing a deal. I would recouch it as we're honoring a deal. And so, Commissioner Schrader, I kind of concur. That's where I'm leaning. And but I do have one question. Maybe someone can answer it. Maybe not now, but just the square footage. We know what the fixed facility is at Bob's Red Mill, but I don't know what the potential square footage was at the college site to propose that.
Dr. Cook would know. I know that also we're just interviewing architects, so there's a lot of opportunity
right.
for planning, and things like that. But Dr. Cook would maybe know that.
Yeah.
So I was going back and looking at our master plan. So we were planning for a site of about 40,000 square feet. 40. And then with the addition of OSU, that gave us additional opportunity to expand the size of that. And we hadn't gotten to that number yet, depending on what they brought forward. But it obviously gave us more capacity.
Okay, so north of 40,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Gary, I just want to check, is there anybody else that would
Yes, it looks like Kelly. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Kelly Redwine. I'm an Office Specialist 1 with OSU Extension. I've worked with the 4-H program for 23 years. I very much appreciate the opportunity to continue partnering and to grow our partnership with Clackamas Community College. We've hosted Tree School there for 35 years, and that has been one of the premier extension events in the nation. We're proud of what we do in partnership with them, and we want to continue. We see this possibility of Bob's Red Mill as merely a shift in that partnership, perhaps less on-site with the main Clackamas Community College campus, but far closer to their Harmony campus. And we would look forward to sharing the building, especially in the youth development and family community health areas, especially with the teaching kitchens, that currently aren't as much of a focus with the Natural Resource Excellence Center at CCC. We want to make sure that all our program areas are given the equal opportunity to shine. And we want to remind you that our supporters also have worked hard for the extension buildings. We've had various plans over the years, started and changed for a variety of reasons, including most recently COVID, where we had plans for our own building and we're on track to break ground in the summer of 2020. This opportunity with Bob's Red Mill feels like a continuation of that opportunity to have our own building where we could invite others in rather than be tenants of a partner organization, which we do value, but this would give us perhaps more autonomy and more money in our overflow to take care of the maintenance issues and the shared costs that would be a commitment of having our own building. We promised that to the voters when they elected the tax district in 2008. And there are 4-H families, our extension families in community health and in forestry and in master gardeners and in agriculture and in small farms are very excited at the possibility of us having a permanent home. And that we'd like you to take that into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
If I may, is there anyone else from Oregon State who would like to speak? It looks like Chris does. Come on forward, Chris.
Thanks for the opportunity to come back. Just wanted to address a couple things. Again, Chair Roberts, Commissioners, the timeliness of this is unique. And I think really just speaks to the opportunity that came before us with the building. And I also want to reiterate the partnership idea, and that, again, doesn't change. I think what we're talking about here is, of the extension programming, what programming makes sense on the college campus and what programming may make more sense elsewhere. And I think you heard Dr. Cook talk about 40,000 square feet. This building being 20,000 square feet for, roughly $6 million, the asking price. I think what you'll find is when we have office space and all of the other needs that are not necessarily related to natural resources, you're going to see a cost per square foot probably double what we're going to pay for this facility. So when you think about this partnership, my fear is, and the reason that it's brought before you, because ultimately this is your decision to make, and I think it would be negligent for us not to bring this opportunity before you. I think what you're going to find is we're probably not talking about 20,000 square feet additional to the 40 on the college campus. And so we're going to see probably a larger investment for less space to deliver programming. So that's really why we're here. It is not to disavow the partnership. In fact, I think we can really make the partnership stronger because the purposeful location of those natural resource facilities on campus that fit what will happen in that new facility on campus really allow us to be wise fiscally with our resources while also having much larger space to do the types of events that I think this county needs in terms of all of the other extension service opportunities. So I just wanted to address those two things. And again, regardless of your decision today, we remain committed to a very strong partnership with the community college.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other
I think
comments?
that's it for presenters, unless you have any questions for anyone in our audience. Commissioners.
We have somebody else here to present. Now, please introduce yourself for us.
My name is Cheryl Kythen, and I have been a 4-H leader for over 40 years with this extension service. And I also am a retired office personnel. And I want you to consider, please, that the programming that Extension does is entirely different from the programming that the college does. We require kitchens if we're going to teach kids and adults to cook. We need a 8 kitchens set up. We need meeting rooms. We have, I don't know how many advisory committees and committees that meet to put the programs together. We need access to those things. We can't be on a schedule to be renting space, even though we've already paid how many $1 million for 10,000 square feet. The opportunity that Bob's Red Mill provides us is an expansion for the next 50 years at least, and a permanent home, which is what we promised to the public when we started the service district run. And I want to tell you, I have been in it from day one, 2005, and that was our promise to the public, was that they would have a building that would be extension service, and they would have one place to come to instead of being shuffled all over the county for different programs. So I want you to think about these things. This is very important. There are so many times in the last 18 years that this commission has sat here and said, we can't make up our minds. We can't make up our minds. I've been here through all of it. I've been here through all of the meetings. This is something that would be a feather in your cap with the whole county of Clackamas supporting you. So I hope you will give it good consideration. This is the long-term dream of the Extension Service here in Clackamas County, and it's much needed. They're crammed into the 2 buildings they're in. Obviously, we're not welcome on the Red Soils campus anymore to put up a new building, so we need to have our own building. This combining us with a community college is not a solution for extension, but it may be a solution for commissioners here to have found us a space. Please give it serious consideration. This has gone on way too long, and we need your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cook, would you want to
Dr.
come
Cook,
up?
let Dr. Cook.
Is that all right?
Thank you. There was just a couple comments I wanted to respond to. When we were approached about this about 3 years ago, one of the things we were really clear about is that we weren't interested in having tenants. We were really interested in a partnership. And part of the exciting piece about this vision that, as we've talked about it over the years, is to really find ways that we can integrate spaces and integrate programs throughout the building. So there are examples where extensions on community college campuses in Oregon. And it's almost like you walk in on the left side's the college, and on the right side's the extension office. I said, I'm not interested in that. I want to find out how we can really collaborate and really think about that. So from the very beginning, we heard the concern about a commercial kitchen and, and teaching space around that. And so that's something that, as we've been thinking about, constructing this and getting it done, we've purposefully brought forward members of the OSU Extension with members of Clackamas Community College to select the architects. And then once we start doing charrettes and really think about that, we're thinking about spaces across the building that way that could be distinctively OSU, could be distinctively the college, and then where are there opportunities for shared spaces. And then I guess I'll just say this, we have a number of buildings and spaces on the campus. And so when I would look to our Clackamas or Volunteers in Medicine clinic that has been on there a couple years now, they located near actually where we're thinking about this. There are times that they need additional space, and so they don't pay for that. They use conference rooms, they use other spaces that we have in that building or otherwise, in addition to the rest of the services on campus. So I want to say, I understand the cost difference clearly between Bob's Red Mill and the college and what that would look like. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves when we haven't even designed the building yet. And we're really committed to making sure that that's not just, we're asking people to come in and pay rent on this. We're thinking much broader that way.
Great, thank you, Doctor. I think
Tim, I'm going to have a question for you, so you just, but I'll just wait to go in order here.
Go
but-
ahead, you
Go ahead.
first, Paul.
So what you're saying is there's no foreclosing that it would not have, a kitchen or all those amenities. It was really an open table. I mean, it was a true partnership. Everything was on the table. And there was nothing to foreclose that there would not be any of those facilities.
No,
that-
and in fact, I think that's the presumption. We haven't designed it yet. The example I've given a number of people is that there's a real interest for our arboriculture program to have a climbing gym, for lack of a better term, trees that they can train on, kind of a 2-story indoor space, because they do that outside in the rain. And in early talks with OSU, it's like, wow, that would be interesting for our forestry folks and have this as well. And it's like, wouldn't it be really great to design a space that we could use that way and start thinking about that in addition to things like the kitchen and the rest. But all that still has to be done. I mean, we haven't made any of those decisions yet.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
And I have a question with Bob's Red Mill. So are we being, Nancy, help me out here, because we don't have a real pro forma, or we have some information and data with that. But I find it hard to believe that Bob's Red Mill would not need some kind of renovation. That is a retail space. It's got a kitchen. So that's the other concerning piece that I have about that, is because I'm thinking with the community college, there's an opportunity to co-design something that really meets the needs rather than rehabbing, in a sense, a building that really wasn't its first purpose. And respectfully, to my OSU friends, I was here in 2008 and helped pass that bond with Mr. Mike Bondi, who still remains a dear friend, and I work with him at Hopkins. He's coming to see me in a few days. But I think one of the disconnects I have to address at this point is Mr. Bondi was constantly, at least every other month or so, meeting with us, talking about this. We had a very, and I haven't seen in the last few years, that same level of communication and direct connection. I don't think it's purposeful, but we've kind of lost that. And so that's the other thing that concerns me, is suddenly the speed of this, where, well, this is a great building, we want to buy it, but there has been no longer groundwork. I miss Mr. Bondi. He really did a great job. Now, I do realize that, Chris, you're relatively new, Lyle, and this was something that your predecessor had talked about. I know that Leah was frustrated because, yes, we thought we would put a building on this campus. There's been multiple iterations, but I finally thought that, because I hadn't heard anything really otherwise except very fast, that again, we were really pretty much on task with OSU and the community college. This has come as a real total surprise to me, and I do support extension, but I also support our community college. And the lack of, suddenly this has just been presented to us out of, really pretty much out of the blue, and I have concerns about that. I really thought, as the lovely woman that spoke here in extension, that after all these years, because I've been working on it all these years, we finally had come to the there that was already on its way. And I really have an issue. I'm hesitating to veer from what I thought was actually the final pathway to what we needed to happen. And Paul, you're the financial guru. Do you feel we have enough in front of us right now to really be clear about whether or not Bob's Red Mill would be workable? I have no clarity with that. But, yeah.
Go
So go
ahead.
ahead.
Chair
just-
Roberts, Commissioner Savas, Commissioner Schrader, the reason it's come to you so fast is I worked through Nancy in order to get information to either the administrator or to you all. This came about when we found out Bob's Red Mill was available for sale in March. That's why it came so fast. Had we had this opportunity 2 years ago, or our stakeholders been involved in the initial process for the community college, we would have posed Bob's Red Mill as an option. I did the time distance factor to both locations. The outliers are two cities different. Right now, it's Sandy and Estacada coming into where we're located now. In the new location, it would be Colton and Malala areas. Bob's Red Mill would give us a more populated area of serving the residents of Clackamas County, and we would still be able to serve our rural residents in that location. When I did the pro forma, I specifically asked for the information on operations and maintenance from Bob's Red Mill. So the numbers that you see in that pro forma for operations and maintenance are based on the current numbers, and I can separate those out and provide them to you. I have a document in my binder that shows you the difference.
I've got it on the screen.
Well, no, I have a separate document that I gave Nancy that shows what our maintenance costs are now versus what our costs would be at Bob's Red Mill. So I did put both of those together to provide you all with that information. And I believe the only other thing I would ask you to consider is, and I've only been here 6 years as the office manager, county liaison, is that the community of extension and agriculture, family community health, 4-H program, we have the largest one in the state, have been looking for their own building since 2008, saving money. We would save the taxpayers $5 million plus by looking at Bob's Red Mill. We would also be in a building 2 years earlier than what it would be if we continued with the construction of a new building, not changing a relationship, but having our own extension building and continuing and expanding our relationship with the community college by having 2 locations, still having natural resources up in the Milwaukee area, 2 bus stops that individuals can come to the site location. So we have looked at those in terms of staffing, transportation, locality, schools in the vicinity, everything to provide that information. I just don't have the ability or authority to come to you directly.
Yeah,
And thank you.
And I want to thank you for that, Leah, because I really appreciate all the work that you do. But I think, quite frankly, you just pointed out one of the disconnects. Back in the day, Mr. Bondi not only went to our administrators, he made a point of coming to us. You don't have that option. And I think, yes, that's been the issue, because we were constantly in contact where something that became a little bit of a surprise here was never quite a surprise. And I imagine it has to do more with budget cuts. And I guess my other question might be, is OSU as an entity interested in, I mean, does it have to be our county extension? I mean, we're the purveyors of the money, pretty much. But Oregon State University, I don't know, Nancy, has that come up? But would they be able to purchase this as an additional building, or does it have to just be our dollar?
I don't know if OSU wants to answer that question.
But yeah, I'm kind of
if
curious.
OSU would be able to purchase the building.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of like, if we could do both, maybe we should do both, but I'm kind of figuring, where's the money, okay?
Yeah, Chair Roberts and Commissioner, it is possible. Certainly, the IGA allows for that. What I can tell you is what is typical in service district buildings is that the county owns and operates the building.
Right.
There's 4 other examples: Deschutes County, Lake
Right.
County, Tillamook County, and Union County. And the reason for that is being located within the county, it's a lot easier for maintenance and services and things that the county already has. Whereas the further you get away from Corvallis, those become more challenging.
Yeah.
And typically what you're doing then is hiring project contractors, folks that you have to go out for RFPs where the county facility allows the county services. So as long as you build into the budget the cost, the anticipated cost for those things, it typically ends up being wiser for the county to own the building.
Okay.
And I would just add, that's also why the Benton County Extension Office is not on campus. It is actually located off-site.
Down in Corvallis.
Yeah.
Well, I have no more comments. so-
Commissioner Savas has a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, several. You know, we have, you know, I've only been here 15 years, and, you know, we have acquired properties, we do manage properties, we have, you know, I can't think of a building that we can operate for $75,000 a year. I mean, we just unloaded a building that was costing us almost $225,000 a year to operate, a very simple building. The courthouse is a more complicated building, but that was $330,000, $340,000-ish to operate that. We have acquired buildings on the premise that, we can move in a few months. This is nothing to do with those OSU, so I just want to make sure no one in this room, but some of our staff know that and know this, how this is kind of been, I won't say a sore spot, but from being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers, we have acquired buildings under the premise that we'd be able to move in, or, you know, the TIs, the tenant improvements would cost this much, and they just ballooned out of control. 5-10 times the cost. It's not seismically this. We found that. Due diligence wasn't done, so forth. And so I've seen more losses than I have seen successes. So I'm concerned about that, and that's why I'm reluctant to rush into anything. And I do know passionately the building we had over here for extension, right? And I understand that it's limited use and what it was designed for, and I attended meetings there, there as well as NREC. And most of the investment in this county has been in NREC. And so I don't want to let people think that OSU doesn't have a presence. We're leasing that to OSU for $1 a year. Please acknowledge that. I felt in my 15 years, and Martha touched on it, at least in my first 10, I think that OSU, Mr. Bondi and staff, I really felt like we were a board, we were a district, and we were part of that decision-making and part of the guidance and received regular updates. I felt like a board member.
Yeah.
And the last 4 or 5 years, it's just been, it doesn't feel that at all. So this comes to us, you know, and I think people forget this is a district. We are a board, and the board guides the ship. But in this case, it seems like that, you know, we're finding out that, you know, maybe we need to go this way or that way without, relevant information. I think that's important. So I just want to please acknowledge that we have an investment here, and if it was 40,000 feet over there, and Clovis Community College was building a 20,000 square foot building, I could see the argument for, hey, more space, more this, more that. But it's hard to say that if you all be contemplating a 40,000 square foot building, that suddenly 20,000 is a better place to steer the investment. I'm having a hard time reconciling that in my own head. So I'll just be very blunt. I can't get there today with what I got here today. And I want to make sure we honor the deal, which appears, I know it's not a cast in stone kind of a deal, but the deal I don't want to kill is the deal with the college. In this case, Clackamas Community College, in that partnership. And if that bond had passed by a mile and the partnership with OSU for this building here was was not relevant to the success of that measure, knowing it marginally passed, I might be in a different place. But the other thing too, I didn't think that the board ever held up when we were looking at the site over here across the street.
Yeah,
We didn't hold that up. So I don't know where that came from. I was here.
Me too.
Yeah, I was here. It was the funding that really had, and finally, I think it got to the point, Mr. Bondi was always trying to pencil that out. I respect Mr. Bondi for that. But it came to a point to where it was out of reach due to the funding. And so that's why there was a pause. The pause was we didn't have enough money. The district didn't have enough money to build that. So that was the reason for the pause. All that said, I know that site had restrictions too. That was the other thing. Because of the wetlands, it had a site restriction. And as I understand it, that's not as much of an issue here at the college site. So, I think starting with a fresh piece of paper, if you will, and all those opportunities to build it the way y'all want it, I think has got some value. So that's where I am today. Chair, I yield back.
So I'm looking to my commissioners, is there a motion or?
Is there a motion necessary to take no action?
I think that I'm looking at Gary.
There's no motion necessary if you're not taking action, and based on your statement, Commissioner Savas, there's not a majority present to make a decision today. Unfortunately, there's only 3 of you present out of 5, and that will be the case for another 2 weeks. So.
And if my colleagues want to talk me out of it, I'd be.
No, I'm with you, Commissioner Savas. It makes me sad. I hate upsetting my OSU friends. Many of you know that Kelly's dad is my son's godson, so I have personal connections here. But the timing hasn't been the greatest, and I don't feel comfortable moving ahead with it today either. I kind of thought we finally had the plan in place, and that's where I'd like to stick. And I'm going to have some really disappointed people, but I've got to be honest with you. I had a bunch of disappointed people yesterday, and it is what it is. It's part of the job, and it's never pleasant. But I think that I think we ought to stay the course with.
Yeah, I just I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Yeah, I think it's really important to give Bob's Red Mill and his staff a big shout out, because I know they have done a tremendous amount for our community. I can see that they're trying to do a tremendous amount for OSU. I bet you if Bob was alive today, he'd probably go, hey, I'll give it to you. And that's how much he really loved OSU. I'll just tell you that. I knew him personally. He was just an icon in our community. And so this is an absolutely difficult situation to really kind of address both the needs. And that's where, obviously, it's, I guess I want to give my own personal shout out to OSU and the extension. I was in 4-H, my brother worked at Ewell Tree Farms. I mean, it has been instrumental in my personal family, so I just want to say thank you to everybody that has really helped so many families. And to me, the extension has expanded far from what it used to be. And that's where I really kind of had the opportunity. And I think that it just appears we're not going to do both, can't do both. And so I think the college has tremendous opportunities, and I think we're just in a position where probably it looks like we're staying the course. And I just wish there was some other resolution to it, but I think that's kind of where we're at. So unfortunately, with that being said, we'll go ahead and move forward. Unless you have any other comments, Gary.
No, so there's no action today.
Okay.
It appeared to me Bob was on a timeline, so, I don't know if you want further information to bring this back again. It sounds like not. I certainly encourage OSU and the college to continue working together and making sure that everyone's getting what they need. I do want to say with respect, I know emotions are high today. Me and my staff do not withhold things from you commissioners. Anyone can speak to you at any time, which actually this project started by Mr. Sherman talking to a commissioner. It didn't come through staff. So anyone can talk to a commissioner at any time from our friends in the audience today. So please don't accuse me and my staff of withholding
Oh, well,
information.
Gary, with all due respect, that's not what I meant. I think.
Not from you, Commissioner.
No,
Not from you.
That's
Other
not,
comments
no.
I thought I heard today. So with that, there's no decision today. You're done with the business today, Chair. Back to you.
All right.
Thank you.
So being no further business, this concludes our policy session, and thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.